Until 1941, one fighter ruled the skies over Europe, the Messerschmitt Bf-109. But then came it, a machine that changed the game. A low engine rumble, aggressive lines, speed and power that the Allies didn't expect. From the very first battle, Allied pilots knew this wasn't just a new plane, it was a monster. The Focke-Wulf FW-190, a German fighter that became a legend. It shot down Spitfires, carried bombs, destroyed tanks, and remained a nightmare for any pilot. Why was the Focke-Wulf 190 considered the best aircraft of the Luftwaffe? How did it become a symbol of the Third Reich's air superiority? And why was it feared even by those who never looked up? Let's break it down. So, 1939. The Luftwaffe, relying on its main fighter, the Messerschmitt Bf-109, dominates the air. German aces are confident in their superiority, and their enemies are certain of the impending threat. The Bf-109, fast, maneuverable, intimidating, but its design is already reaching its limits. Every flight is a test not only for the pilot but also for the machine itself. Meanwhile, the British are preparing a response, a new fighter, the Supermarine Spitfire, capable of challenging German dominance. In the shadows, the British are developing a weapon that could change the balance of power. In the Reich Air Ministry, anxiety is growing. Technological superiority could be quickly lost. Every report, every intelligence brief intensifies the feeling of impending danger. Relying on one type of aircraft is a risk, because one enemy innovation can make the Luftwaffe fleet obsolete. The war of technology becomes no less important than the war on the ground. The leadership understands, a new fighter is needed, designed for future aerial duels. The time for compromises is over. Dominance in the skies of Europe is at stake. The Bf-109 is good, but very vulnerable. A complex engine, sensitive to damage. Even the slightest malfunction can cost a pilot's life. One shell in the cooling system, and even the best fighter goes down. Vulnerability becomes the weak point of German aviation. A different aircraft is needed, strong, powerful, with a different philosophy. A new approach must ensure survival and victory in the coming battles. The RLM announces a competition for a new fighter that will not replace, but complement, the Messerschmitt. The search for fresh ideas and unconventional solutions begins. It's the fall of 1938. War clouds are gathering in Europe, and in Berlin, inside the RLM building, the atmosphere is really tense. The German command knows that air superiority will be super important in the coming fight. They don't just need a new fighter jet, they need something that shows off their amazing technology and military power. It has to be better than the Bf-109 and beat any enemy out there. The demands for this plane are tough. It needs to be super strong, have powerful weapons, and be easy to make and fix. Every single thing they ask for is a way to get ready for the challenges of the future war. Among many ideas, a bold one from Kurt Tank at Focke-Wulf really stands out. His team is ready to challenge how things are usually done. Tank suggests a big change, using a radial, air-cooled engine instead of the usual liquid-cooled one. It's a risk, but it's also a chance to create a plane that can't be beaten. His idea is simple. Being tough and able to survive is more important than looking sleek and aerodynamic. War doesn't need planes that break records. It needs strong fighters that can last. A radial engine is simpler, can handle damage better, and can even get the pilot home after being hit. This is what helps them survive in a fight. The new plane needs to have cannons, wide landing gear for airfields close to the front lines, and a comfy cockpit. Everything is designed to make it super effective in battle. Tank isn't making a fancy racehorse. He's building a workhorse for the war. His goal is to make it easy to produce a lot of them and simple to fix. This way of thinking makes the Focke-Wulf project stand out from the others. There's a feeling of competition and excitement for change in the air. The RLM gives the green light and the development of the future FW-190 begins. At this moment, the future of German aviation is decided. At its core, it's about being practical, tough, and powerful. It's not just a plane, it's a tool to rule the skies. This project promises to change who has the power in the air. The whole country is watching to see what happens, and that's how the idea of the Butcher Bird is born. A plane for a real war. Every propeller spin shows determination and a challenge to the future. Germany is betting on new ideas and being practical. The fight for air dominance is ahead, and the FW-190 becomes its symbol. The FW-190 project officially kicks off, and the Focke-Wulf team in Bremen gets to work. Tank's philosophy was all about simplicity, reliability, and making things easy for pilots and mechanics. He really pushed his engineers to think outside the box and not be afraid of bold ideas. And the first prototype, the FW 190 V1, quickly took shape. It was compact, powerful, with a wide landing gear and great visibility. Every step of building it felt like a dream coming true, and the team knew they weren't just creating a plane, but a symbol of a new era. On June 1, 1939, the first flight happened. Test pilot Hans Sander took the machine into the sky, and in that moment, all the team's hard work became real. Everyone involved in the project was filled with excitement and pride. The idea was proven right. The plane was controllable and fast, but some big problems showed up. This wasn't a reason to give up, but a push to keep going and make the design better. The BMW 139 engine was overheating, and the cockpit temperature was unbearable. Even though the body of the plane was good, the engine was letting them down. It just wasn't reliable enough. The engineers worked day and night to find a solution, but it soon became clear they needed a different engine. The prototype showed a lot of promise, but it needed more work. Focke-Wulf was getting ready for the next step, finding the perfect engine. The problems with the BMW 139 forced them to find a replacement, and that's when the BMW 801 came along. This engine was a real leap forward in technology for German aviation. It was a 14-cylinder, two-row radial engine with direct fuel injection and a really complex cooling system. The new engine was more powerful and more complex, and it meant they had to redesign the front part of the plane. Putting it in didn't just need new mounts, but also a complete overhaul of the control and maintenance systems. The Focke-Wulf engineers strengthened the structure and adapted the fuselage. Making the frame stronger and redesigning the aerodynamics were necessary to handle the increased weight and power. A key new feature was the fan behind the propeller, which cooled the engine really well. This system kept it from getting too hot, even when working at full power, which was super important for combat missions. The BMW 801 gave the FW 190 its recognizable look and aggressive feel. Its big engine cover became a symbol of its power and technical superiority. In the spring of 1940, the FW 190 V5, with its new engine, was ready to fly. This wasn't just a prototype, it was a challenge to the entire aviation industry. Tests showed that overheating was no longer an issue and power had increased. Engineers noted stable performance even under extreme conditions. The plane was faster, climbed better, and could carry heavy weapons. This opened up new tactical possibilities for the Luftwaffe. The integration of the BMW 801 was a breakthrough in engineering. Producing the engine required new standards of quality and organization in the factories. The FW 190 turned into a fearsome opponent. Its arrival on the front lines changed the balance of power in the air. Tank's decision paid off. His unconventional approach brought success. The innovations of the BMW 801 became an example for the entire industry. The Butcher found its true heart. Now it wasn't just a plane, it was a symbol of German engineering power. The project is in its final stages. Ahead are the trials of combat. With the engine problems sorted out, the FW 190 enters a period of tough testing. Now it's not about theories, but about harsh reality. 40 pre-production planes, the FW 190A0, were ordered. They were made to be as close as possible to combat standards. These planes became test subjects in a real fight against reality. In the summer of 1941, the planes went to a special unit for frontline testing. There was no room for mistakes here, only the harsh conditions of war. Pilots who were used to the BF 109 were wary of the new plane. But after the first combat flights, their doubt turned into admiration. The FW 190 proved its strength. The plane impressed with its power, speed, and amazing maneuverability. In the air it was like a predator ready to attack at any moment. The wide landing gear made takeoffs and landings easier even on rough runways, and the cockpit was designed perfectly, with everything within the pilot's reach. Pilots felt safe behind the big radial engine like it was a shield, ready to face any challenge. The Butcher Bird lived up to its nickname. It was a plane for real aces, ready for the most dangerous missions. But the tests weren't without problems. The engine still tended to overheat, and the weapons needed more work. By the end of 1941, after a series of intense tests, the FW 190 was finally ready for battle. Now it wasn't just a prototype, but a powerful weapon. The new fighter was ready to enter the battlefield, where it would face its true trial by fire. Bringing in new weapons is always a political thing, but for the Third Reich, it became a real show of power. Every new airplane wasn't just a machine, it was a symbol of military strength and being ahead in technology. It was meant to make the nation look good, and scare its enemies. The FW-190's fate was decided by the top leaders, Göring and, most importantly, Hitler himself. They saw its potential as a new sword for the Reich. Hitler didn't just want another plane, he wanted a technological marvel that could change the war and put Germany above its enemies. The FW-190 wasn't a replacement, it was a second main fighter plane, working with the BF-109. Together, they formed an unbeatable team, ready to protect the skies of the Reich. Having different engines was a smart move. If one type of engine production was messed up, the other type could still go to the front, keeping the Air Force strong and flexible. The FW-190 was perfect for fights at low and medium heights, for attacking ground targets, and for close-up dogfights. Its power and ability to move quickly made it a tough opponent in any battle. Luftwaffe aces who were doubtful at first became big fans of the Butcher Bird. Hitler was really impressed by the FW-190's power and how it could be improved, especially as a fighter bomber. The plane fit perfectly into the idea of blitzkrieg, becoming a key part of the Wehrmacht's fast attacks. Hitler gave the project his full support and made it a top priority for production, turning the FW-190 into a new symbol of the Reich's will and determination. Inside the German aviation industry, a fierce rivalry broke out between Messerschmitt and Focke-Wulf. This wasn't just a fight for contracts, prestige, influence, and the future of German fighter planes were all on the line. The BF-109 became a symbol of the Luftwaffe, and its supporters fiercely protected its reputation. However, the arrival of Kurt Tank's FEW-190 caused alarm and even envy among engineers and pilots who were used to Messerschmitt's dominance. The RLM was balancing between new ideas and supporting old trusted machines, and behind the scenes, there were heated arguments. Pilots argued about which fighter was better, the fast and agile BF-109 or the powerful and versatile FW-190. In battle, the FEW-190 proved its strength, challenging not only the Allies but also the BF-109's status. As a result, both fighters became key for the Luftwaffe, and their rivalry pushed technical progress forward and changed the course of the air war. The secret to the Focke-Wulf FW-190's amazing performance was right at its core, the BMW 801 engine. This 14-cylinder air-cooled radial engine was incredibly tough and dependable, which was a huge step forward for its time. Thanks to its smart design, the engine could take a lot of damage and keep going, even when things looked really bad. In the heat of air battles, when every second counted, this reliability saved pilots' lives. Even after being hit, the engine often kept running, giving the pilot a chance to get back to base. This created intense, almost movie-like scenes, where a damaged FW-190 would break away from the fight and disappear over the horizon. The groundbreaking Kommandogerät automated engine control, letting the pilot focus on fighting instead of fiddling with complicated settings. It was a technical marvel, way ahead of its time. The FW-190 was a real beast, powerful, tough, and deadly. Its technical innovations made it a fearsome opponent that even the most experienced Allied pilots were wary of. Its speed and agility allowed it to strike like lightning and get away before the enemy could react. In those moments, the FW-190 became the embodiment of a revolution in air power, fast, elusive, and deadly. The FW-190's cockpit was super advanced and comfy for its time. It had a roomy workspace, and the controls and instruments were laid out just right, so pilots could react super fast in a fight. The big, clear canopy gave a great view all around, which was pretty rare for fighter planes back then. They really focused on keeping the pilot safe. There was an armored seatback, a bulletproof windshield, and the huge radial engine acted like an extra shield from enemy fire. With its self-sealing fuel tanks and extra armor, the FW-190 was one of the toughest fighters of World War II. Pilots often made it back to base even after taking a lot of damage. The FW-190's weapons were scary. 420mm MG-151 cannons and 2 MG-17 machine guns created a thick wall of bullets that could take down enemy planes and ground targets. This mix made it a super versatile and deadly opponent. Thanks to all that firepower, Luftwaffe pilots felt confident in battle and often won, even when they were outnumbered. It's no wonder British pilots nicknamed the FW-190 the Butcher Bird. Its deadly combo of protection and weapons left a lasting impression on everyone who met it in the sky. The FW-190's first flights in 1941 were a real shock for the Allies. Pilots from Jägerschwader 26 quickly showed that Germany was in charge of the skies over the English Channel, and the Allied squadrons weren't ready for such an opponent. The FW-190 easily got out of attacks, made lightning-fast moves, and hit British planes hard. The Spitfire Mark V was completely outmatched in speed, weapons, and how well it could move. Even experienced British aces said that the FW-190 was almost impossible to catch. In fierce air battles, British pilots were at a deadly disadvantage, often becoming victims of the Butcher Bird's sudden attacks. The answer was the Spitfire Mark IX with a new Merlin engine, which could fight equally and bring balance back to the sky. On the Eastern Front, the FW-190 also ruled, combining speed, armor, and powerful weapons, which made it a terror for Soviet fighters and attack planes. From late 1941 to mid-1943, Kurt Tank's Butcher Bird was the master of the skies, challenging the best planes in the world and forever writing its name into the history of air battles. Even with its scary reputation, the first few months the FW-190 was in service were a real challenge for everyone involved. The powerful BMW 801 engine, which was supposed to be the heart of this fighter, turned out to be its most dangerous weakness. Overheating, sudden fires, and frequent breakdowns made every takeoff a gamble. Mechanics worked hard to fix the problems, and pilots got into the cockpit nervously, knowing that any mistake could cost them their lives. Focke-Wulf engineers worked day and night fixing one problem after another, and only after many months of hard work did the FW-190 finally become the legendary fighter the world remembers. The Focke-Wulf 190 was a tough fighter at low and medium altitudes, where its agility and firepower scared its enemies, but its BMW 801 engine with a simple supercharger lost a lot of power above 20,000 feet, which became a big problem as the air war got more intense. This became a critical weakness when the Allies started bombing from high altitudes, and the Focke-Wulf 190 couldn't effectively fight against these new threats. The Focke-Wulf 190 didn't have the height or agility to fight bombers and their escort, and even experienced pilots couldn't make up for this technical flaw. Later versions like the Focke-Wulf 190 Dora and Ta 152 tried to fix this problem, but they came too late to change the course of the war or give the Luftwaffe back its air superiority. So, the Luftwaffe's diamond had a flaw that the Allies used to great effect, and the Focke-Wulf 190's moments of glory slowly turned into bitter defeats and losing control of the skies. But by the late summer of 1941, the Spitfire Mark V, once a symbol of British might, was suddenly outmatched. The FW-190 dictated the terms of engagement with its speed, maneuverability, and devastating armament, leaving its opponents with no chance. The RAF called this period the Focke-Wulf Scourge. German pilots effectively used boom and zoom tactics, attacking from above and disappearing before the enemy could react. It was thanks to the FW-190's dominance that the Luftwaffe was able to carry out the daring Operation Cerberus, providing air cover for German ships and achieving a triumph. For 1 year, the FW-190 was the undisputed king of the Channel skies, securing strategic victories for Germany and forever changing the course of air warfare. The FW-190's dominance in 1941 to 1942 wasn't just a shock to the Allies, it was a powerful push for change. To counter this threat, engineers and pilots teamed up to create a whole new generation of fighter planes. The British introduced the Spitfire Mark IX, a plane that could fight the FW-190 at high altitudes, and the Americans brought in the heavy P-47 Thunderbolt and finally, the legendary P-51 Mustang. These new planes not only matched the FW-190, but surpassed it, escorting bombers all the way to Berlin, and giving the Allies back control of the skies. The FW-190 raised the bar, but its challenge was the spark that forged the steel of a new generation of fighters that changed the course of the war. If you enjoyed our story about this legendary aircraft, please support us with a like, and by subscribing to the channel. This will greatly help us create new exciting videos about legendary aircraft from World War II and today. See you soon in our new videos, friends. Bye for now.